Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Always Undeniable. I'm your host, Sanaa Collins, and I'm back here today with another episode. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all. This one is very sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Very impromptu. No script, no plan, no nothing. I'm challenging myself just to see what I can come up with in the moment on the spot for a video, and if it's good enough, you'll see it. If not, you'll never see this video. But nonetheless, if you do get to see this, I appreciate y'all for being here. Be sure to check out everything else I post everywhere, whether it's social media, Patreon, etc. Make sure you check out the Undeniable Method. That is my coaching program in which I help you change your life, rebuild, reframe, redefine all the things that have happened in your life, as well as help you get to a new level. And I also have another tier called Accountable Action, where in that you guys are able to hold yourselves accountable, where I serve more as an accountability partner more than a coach. If any of that sounds interesting, link to all of that stuff is in the description. Now, realistically, at this current point in time, I feel very convicted to sort of talk about understanding the complexities of your healing process, because I think there are a lot of people that sort of get the healing process misconstrued and don't really understand exactly what it is and what to expect from it. And truth be told, there is no expectation for the healing process. I, as somebody who's gone through my own and has watched other people navigate theirs over the last few years, I really think the major key component of the healing process is that you can't put a timeline on it. You can't put a timeline on it, and you can't dictate or expect how you're going to feel on any given day. From my personal perspective, I've had a variety of emotions throughout my main healing process. At the time, we're talking about throughout 2020 to 2021, we're talking about when I was 18, 19 years old. And realistically, during that time period, my healing process wasn't linear at all. Some days I felt great, other days I felt terrible. Other days I felt sort of okay, then the next day I'd feel great. Like, it was that type of cycle, that type of pattern. And I don't think it was necessarily anything I was or wasn't doing. It was more just that when you're healing from something that is deep and that hurts you and that leaves a scar, you are almost sort of at least I feel like there's really no way to control. Like, you can take control of your own actions, but even if you, let's say, go to the gym for 2 straight weeks and you feel great physically, that doesn't always mean that mentally you're going to feel great automatically. Those things take time. And while I've said before, no one's undeniable, those two things correlate because they do. It's also important to remember that just because one is working really well for you doesn't mean the other one's immediately going to follow that same pattern. It takes time, it takes consistency, but you also cannot give up on yourself when it feels like one thing is lacking and the other is moving along. And especially when you're healing, that's something that takes a whole lot of time. That's not something you do in, let's say, a month or 2 months. I mean, I think it's really dependent on what type of situation you're healing from, what you're trying to heal from, and how long that element or that thing in your life, how long it played a role in your life and what type of role it played in your life. So if it's let's say, for example, it's a relationship, right? I think relationships tend to be the ones that people have the hardest time healing from, especially if they're a long relationship. When you spend so much time with somebody, when you spend so much energy on somebody and you spend all this time sort of learning this individual and with them learning everything about you, when all that is gone, you don't know what to do, and it sort of leaves you in a state of limbo, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but it almost leaves you in a state of limbo, in a state of uncertainty about what's next, because you almost feel like you don't know how to move on, not necessarily without that person, but just without a relationship. And I guess that varies person to person, but that's an example that makes the most sense to me, especially because I'm somebody that all of this, everything that I've built is off the back of, one, the aftermath of a bad relationship and the loss of football. Two things which I, obviously have a relationship of sorts with. Getting out of the relationship, I just didn't know what was next. I felt like for so long my purpose was to sort of be a good partner to the girl I was with and to also try to balance school and everything else but around my relationship, and that was the wrong way to go about it. And so healing for me looked like reframing what all of this should have actually looked like, what my life should have looked like, where my priorities should have actually lied at that time. And I think now, looking back, even though it was 5 years ago, whatever, one of my, I guess, toughest battles personally is forgiving that version of me, that 17, 18-year-old me that had his priorities wrong, that didn't lock in, that wasn't as mature as I am right now. And it's weird to admit that for me, because I hate kind of being vulnerable, especially when it comes to that. Especially because it is my most vulnerable state. It is my biggest challenge, personally. But if I can do that, if I can talk about my things and what I'm struggling with, so can y'all. And that's really why I do this. That's really why O's Undeniable is the way it is. It really comes down to me sort of showing you guys that you can talk about your issues without it being a problem. You can confront your issues head on without it being a problem. Self-reflecting is a heavy thing, is a heavy part of healing, because when you're able to self-reflect and you're able to call yourself out on where you were but where you're trying to go as well, you're able to do it in a healthy way, in a positive way. And that is something that a lot of people miss, especially in this era of trying to heal and redemption arcs and lock-ins and all these different things you see on social media. People miss the key component of self-reflection, and that is a major part in all of this. Because I think a lot of people also go on these healing journeys for a sense of show. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a lot of people who do it to say that they're doing it, and they don't actually do anything that is remotely close to healing behind closed doors. But on social media, they might say they are. They might show you a picture of, they might post a picture of them being in the gym, let's say twice a week. They might show you, they might post some quotes that they might have saw in a book or on socials. They might repost, you know how it goes. Y'all know how it goes. But I think there's a very, very real and very sort of there's a very real thing. There's a very real element of growth that also comes with healing, because when you heal, it's not just saying, okay, that person is to blame for everything. It's, okay, I played a role in this, they played a role in that. Maybe, things weren't aligning, things didn't work how they were supposed to work, but it's also understanding why those things didn't work, what you need going forward, and how you can be better going forward. And I think healing is just deeper than a physical aspect. It's deeper than just saying, okay, that happened, let me move on. Healing is really understanding why any of those things happened in the first place, and making sure it doesn't happen again, or trying your best to ensure that at least on your end it doesn't happen again. I don't know. It's one of those things that I wanted to talk about on O's Undeniable before, but I didn't necessarily know how to go about it. And I think sort of this open-ended, no script, no plan, not script, but no outline sort of for the conversation is the best way to go about it, honestly. Now I'm sitting here doing this in the middle of the this recording here. I'm thinking as I'm going, so I apologize for any cuts or stutters that seem kind of out of place. But anyway, I think another huge element of this whole healing thing is the idea of just sort of keeping the right energy around you while you do so. Because some people can say they're healing, but have all the worst energy around them possible during that stage. I've seen people say they're healing, but are also trying to hold the attention of 5 different people at the same time. I've seen people say they're healing, but engage in those same activities that got them to the place that they were at that very point in time. I've seen people say they're healing and actually doing nothing behind closed doors, but on social media, as I just gave the example, are saying they're working, they're eating better, they're doing this, they're doing that, when none of it's actually happening. And so I think you can always tell the people who are actually healing from the people who aren't, and the people who talk about it and the people who are actually doing it. And it's one of the reasons why I always say action is so important. Actions speak louder than the words. I know it's a cliche, but it's a fact. If you're actually moving, if you're actually doing work, if you're actually putting in time, you're going to be 10 steps ahead of the person that's just talking about it, than going behind closed doors and doing nothing about it and just drowning in their sorrows. Because at the end of the day, how can you expect to move? How can you expect to improve your life at all when you're not actually willing to do the work for it? You know what I mean? So it really comes down to just the little thing. And I think the little things really make a big difference, especially when it comes to building yourself back up, when it comes to healing, when it comes to becoming the version of you you're supposed to be, when it comes to bouncing back from your trauma, from whatever happened to you. I think that is such a crucial thing. And a lot of people pay attention to it. Yeah, a lot of people say they are focused on it, but I don't think a lot of people really understand the importance and how deep the idea of healing really goes. Because when you think about it, at the end of the day, healing is bigger than just you. It's about you, the people around you, and the life you're trying to build for future you, right? So you can't dwell on your past forever. You can't stay in that same negative mindset. You can't relive those memories all the time, or else you'll never allow yourself to move forward, which is also why healing is so important. Because if you're not healing, you can't help yourself in the future. You can't become the version of you that you know you can be, and you can't end up being the person that gets away from all that and uses those past experiences as the means for growth, as the means for who you are now. And I think that's something I've done a very good job at, is taking my negatives, taking my past, and using that as a launching off point for where I'm at right now. And it's one of the reasons why Always Undeniable and recording and making videos come so easy to me, because I treat this as if every single video is going directly to the version of me that might have needed to hear every single one of these messages. And I always go into every recording, whether it's social media or here, with the mindset of, okay, you're sitting down, you're talking to Sinai at 16, 17, 18. That mindset really helps me dial in, and it really helps me sort of get into this mode where everything I'm talking about, and I'm sure it comes off like this in the videos, I've seen it myself when I watch my videos back, but it comes off as authentic, as real as possible, because that's what it is. Realistically, Always Undeniable is by me, for me, but the videos are aimed at people who may find themselves in the same position that I was in when I was going through my worst time. So not necessarily a younger version of me, but maybe a more damaged version of me, as I like to say. Realistically speaking, when you heal, when you self-reflect, when you allow yourself to feel the things you need to feel, I want to state this, there's nothing wrong with that. You might come across people on social media that tell you that you're not allowed to heal, you're not allowed to say you're hurting, you're not allowed to do this, that, and the third. There's not a single person in this world that genuinely does not feel the emotions that any human feels. If they tell you they don't, they're lying to you, and they don't want you, for whatever reason, they have this image that they feel like they need to protect. It's fine to be vulnerable. It's fine to not feel good all the time, and it's fine to be in your feelings. It really is. But the issue comes when you are drowning in your feelings, when you don't do anything to get yourself up, when you're not trying. At the very least, you should be always trying to do something to elevate your mood, whether it's eating a little bit better, whether it's getting some movement, whether it's whatever. You should always be doing something that can help your mind elevate when you're trying to heal, when you're in the middle of that healing process. Because like I said, the process isn't linear, but if you're always doing something that can consistently boost at least a bit of your mood or how you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, you're going to set yourself up for success. You don't have to be happy all the time. You don't have to be happy all the time. You don't have to pretend to be good all the time. All I'm asking for is for you to do something consistent that can set you up for success at the end of the day. Because I'd be wrong to tell you that it's realistic to not feel bad and to just feel good all the time when you're coming off of something bad. That doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work. And that's why I always try to call out people on social media that say you shouldn't show emotion, you shouldn't feel emotion, you should just move on. That's not the right way to handle it, because what happens is it bottles up, and one day something that's not even related could be the reason that the cap goes off the bottle and everything is flowing everywhere. Next thing you know, you're spilling out emotions, you don't know how to react, you're losing it. And trust me, I know, because I've been there before. I've tried the whole I don't feel emotion. I've tried the whole I'm good, it doesn't matter, this, that, and the third. I've done that before, and I've seen how much of a negative impact it's had on me. And I know it has negative impacts on other people as well, because I've heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people share the exact same story, which is why I'm telling y'all, anybody that's listening to Always Undeniable, anybody that comes across a video, hear my words, feel your emotions. It's okay to be vulnerable. I'm not saying to be overly vulnerable. I'm not saying to share every single detail of your life with everybody. I'm just saying, if you feel your emotions, don't hide them. Let yourself feel them. You're supposed to feel emotions. That's why they're there. That's why they're called feelings, emotions, etc. And this goes back to the whole healing thing, because if you cannot allow yourself to feel your emotions, to feel what you actually feel about the situation, you'll never heal. That's really all I got for y'all today. I appreciate y'all joining me. I hope the message got across, even though I didn't come in here with a plan. Be sure to follow me on social media at Always Undeniable. I post every single day on YouTube Shorts, Instagram, and TikTok. If you're interested in coaching, go ahead and click the link in my bio. Check out the Always Undeniable method, or check out Accountable Action. One's a full coaching experience, the other is an opportunity to have an accountability partner. Both are me. So if you're interested in working with me, let me know. Let's get to work. And yeah, that's really all I got for y'all. Until the next one, stay blessed, stay positive, stay motivated. This has been Always Undeniable.